Hey everyone, it's Lane with Tim's Nation. I'm here today to talk to you about the last ride of the DeathWatch. I'm genuinely very sad about what GW has decided to do to my blessed DeathWatch, but I did play them for the last time in a GT this past weekend. Small GT, we started off with only 24 players at Battlegrounds to Boardgames. Actually, usually get more people for their RTTs than they do for the GTs there. But we started off with 24 people, 5-round event over 2 days. So I'm just going to go through how we played, how the DeathWatch did on their last ride, how they performed. We do have kind of a poetic ending to it, so stay tuned to find out, especially the last game. It's definitely worth it. But yeah, so a GT again at Battlegrounds to Boardgames. They always put on great events there. Had a good time. For me, tournaments are kind of like little vacations for me. I don't go on big vacations. These tournaments are kind of my little vacations. So actually being comfortable is important to me. So that's why when I go to a tournament, I've got a cart to have all my models on. So I have space to put my models and things. I take a cooler with drinks in it. So I've always got some beverages. And I like the fact when I go to a store, if there's plenty of space. So there's plenty of space at Battlegrounds and Boardgames. Lots of tables. The tables are not smushed together with 3 battle mats on one table, and you have to walk all the way around 4 or 5 people. No, every table is standing on its own. There's plenty of space in there, so you're not bumping into other players and things. It's just a great place, a very comfortable place to play the games. It doesn't get real loud. It's not like an echoey event hall or something. I love going there for games, so that's why I try to go there for their RTTs every month. But this weekend was a GT, so like I said, 24 players. First thing I want to mention is that something I like to do at GT level events is I trade dice with people. And so we're going to throw up a couple pictures of my dice collection. I have this collection of dice from all the people I've played at larger events. I don't trade dice at every RTT, the smaller events, one-day events, just because that's a lot of dice trading because I play in a lot of them. But at GT level events or bigger team tournaments, that sort of thing, I do like to trade dice. So I have a lot of extra DeathWatch dice in my Votan. I've got extra Votan dice so that I trade a die with each of my opponents. I'm not very pushy about it because some people are very particular about their dice. They may have the expensive GW ones. They want to keep the exact number. They don't want to trade. That's perfectly fine. But most people do trade. And so I've got this great collection of all these dice from all these people I've played at all these events. And you'd be surprised just like what a variety of them there are. There are so many different dice because a lot of people have army-specific ones, or they have dice they use from the store they go to, or from their team, or from events they've been to, or they just have some cool dice. So I've got this great collection. I love having it. You can see in my little trophy case there, those are all my trophies for painting. I don't have any trophies for playing 40K. I don't have any trophies from any events that I've won. I've won a lot of, just, I don't know, 8 or 9 RTTs over the last couple of years, but never any that had trophies, never any big GTs or anything like that. So no trophies for winning games. I have some nice trophies for having painted a couple of things that GTs and a couple awards from the Armies on Parade events that GW does at their GW stores every year, which reminds me I got to get my display board ready for this year. But yeah, so I love having this. If I'm not taking home trophies, at least I'm taking home these cool dice that I have. And they're great memories. I just love having these keepsakes. So I definitely recommend that if you're playing tournaments, it's a great thing to do. Yeah, like I said, it's one of my favorite little things to have on hand. So now to the actual games. So we taking my DeathWatch, taking the same list I ran on the channel last week that pretty handily beat DJ's Canoptic Court. Yeah, let them know that I said that. And so it's the same list as what we had before in that exact same list because my list was locked in at that time. So if you want to know the details of it, but basically we've got a captain with Jump Pack with a Tome of Ectoclades. We've got the Watchmaster with the Thief of Secrets. We've got the Apothecary, a Biologist with the Beacon and Jealous. And we have a Judiciary for those people who are trying to pick up my screening units. At least he gets his unit to fight first. A 10-man of DeathWatch Vets, a 5-man of DeathWatch Vets, a Rhino, a 6-man Eradicator Brick, a 6-man Devastator Centurion Brick. We got a couple squads of Jump Intercessors, and we have the Stern Guard, 10 Stern Guard, 2 squads of 10 Stern Guard, and 2 drop pods. So that was what we were taking. Round one, I played into Scott. I've seen Scott a ton of times at the Battlegrounds, the Boardgames events. I don't think we've ever actually played, though. He was running World Eaters. It was actually my first time, I think, or maybe my second time in 10th playing World Eaters. The first time was probably close to a year ago, so I don't really remember. I know they're really big in the meta. I just haven't bumped into them very often. So we had a great game. I was just able to get eyes on his units before they could really get into me. Did a lot of shooting, and the Devastator Centurions and the Frag Cannons are great for into infantry squads, especially ones that have 3-up saves. Just because the volume of shots they do with the blast really gets in there and really cooks. I was able to kill Angron relatively early, I think in turn 2, and just able to chew through his units pretty quickly. And Angron did come back in that game. I think it was round 4 maybe. So not enough time for him to really do anything. So it was a good win for the DeathWatch to start the tournament off with a win. I think I don't remember the exact score, but it was like a 25-point win. Significant enough, not too close, but not a blowout either. Round 2, I played into Nico and his Thousand Sons, and again, this is an army that I have not had much experience playing into. I don't think maybe I played him once or twice in 10th edition, and again, it's been a long time. So, unfortunately, I was just not ready for all their shenanigans, and they have shenanigans aplenty. The Thousand Sons are really tough to deal with if you don't know what they're doing. And what happened was I didn't realize that he could move his Rhino, disembark a squad of rubrics with all the 10 flamers, and then move them again with his double move thing. And because he did that, he was able actually to pick up my captain and his squad, the captain with the Tome of Ectoclades, before I could pop off Tome of Ectoclades, which obviously made a huge difference. If I had Tome for that next turn, I would have been able to pick up Magnus very easily. But yeah, the Thousand Sons, they're difficult damage profiles to go into. Turn 1, he did teleport his 10-man Terminator brick around and picked up a 5-man vet squad with the Judiciary, but then I slapped him back with my Dev Sense and actually was able to pick up 9 of those Terminators. So I did make a good dent in his army turn 1. That's a lot of points, 9 rubric Terminators or Scarab Occult Terminators. But then just didn't have my Tome turn, wasn't able to really do the damage I wanted to. Eradicator's going into the Mutilith Vortex Beast is not great. It's got a 5-up Bimbal, but also a 5-up Feel No Pain and like 13 wounds. So you're just not able to do the volume of wounds to finish it off. And everything in his army hits really, really hard. I didn't realize how hard Magnus shoots, especially when you can do things to reroll all your hits and reroll all your wounds and wound everything on 2s. So it wasn't a blowout. He beat me by 20-some points. Again, it was not a terrible loss. I didn't want to. Was really hoping, of course, that the DeathWatch would win a GT in their last ride, but we did take the loss there. But fine, Nico's a really, really good player. We've played times before, and there have been times when he's beaten me and times when I've beaten him. I think last time we played, I beat his Dark Angels, so he owed me one. And then round 3, I played into Jimmy and his Custodes. Oh my God, Jimmy and I had just the best time. I hope he watches this video because Jimmy and I had an absolutely great game. He had Custodes. He had 3 big old bricks of Wardens. He had 2 3-mans of Venatari. He had Custodian Guard with Kyria Draxus, like a 2-man Terminator squad. He had Blade Champions on all the Wardens. So that was it. There's like no tanks, just a whole bunch of super durable Custodes. Like I said, 3 Warden squads and once per game, and they can pop off their 4-up, feel no pain to anything, which makes them super durable. So turn 1, I had to throw out a 5-man squad of jump intercessors in the middle to get area denial or something like that. So on his turn 1, he picked those guys up and kind of moved out a couple squads of the Wardens. Turn 2, I went all in. We went Tome of Ectoclades, and I brought like 1,700 points of my army onto those 2 Warden squads. I was able to pick it up. I shot one apart and killed it, and then I was able to charge in and finish the other one off with my Watchmaster squad with the 10 DeathWatch vets. They were able to finish them off. I took so much Obviously, with their neg 1 to wound and their 4-up invul and their 4-up feel no pain for that shooting phase, it was so much work. Obviously, it was a good turn in terms of points because I picked up 700 points. You know, I think each of those Warden squads is 250 plus the character on each of those. So yeah, it's about 700 points there. And then in the next turn in his movement phase, he brought out some Venatari, and I was able to overwatch them with my Dev Sense. So I actually picked up another 165 points. So obviously way out in the lead there in terms of at that point, he's only killed one 5-man jump intercessor squad for 80 points. And I've picked up 800 points in his army. So Jimmy is really down about it. Oh man, he was obviously still a great opponent. Again, we had a fantastic time, but obviously felt the hurt there from that much destruction that early in the game. However, he kept in the game. We played it out. In the end, I won by 12 points. However, it's only because if he had made one more save on a Venatari, he would have won the game. I did 5 wounds to the last remaining Venatari with the Devastator Centurions. He made 4 of the 5 saves, and he didn't have a CP for a reroll because he'd already used it trying to keep some Terminators alive, and it finished off the last Venatari, which was enough to deny him burning my home field objective because we were playing Scorched Earth. It denied him behind enemy lines. All this stuff. Denied him primaries because one on the objective. There would have been enough of a swing in points that he would have won the game if I had failed to kill that Venatari. So it was huge. So even though I had that such as an early lead and just absolute damage destruction and picking up, like I said, 800 points, his army is still a great game. Really came down to it. Still really close. So that was an all-timer for both me and Jimmy. He said it's probably one of his top 5 games ever. I agree. It's probably one of the best games I've had ever. So thanks for playing a good game with me, Jimmy. So then, end of day 1, we're at 2-1, 2 wins, 1 loss. Go home, come back the next day, come back on Sunday, and my first game, round 4, is into Eric and Custodes again. So more Custodes. This one ended up just being a little bit more of a decisive win just because Eric's a very good player, but he only had 1 squad of Wardens in there, and everything else, I really have the ability to kick out that damage. Even though he was making good use of the strat, because he was shield host, he was making good use of the strat that lets you take a 4-up feel no pain to mortals, and my dev wounds count as that. I was still able to chew through his army a lot more quickly. So that means we still had a good game. I don't remember what the score was. It's like a 20, 25 point win. A good win for the DeathWatch. So that puts us at 3-1. And going into the last round, and there were some very good players who were also 3-1, so I didn't know who I was going to get paired into. It could have been Nathan, it could have been Benson. All those would have been really challenging games. However, for the last game, the last competitive game of the DeathWatch, I was paired into Jason and his Imperial Knights. He had an Imperial Knight Lancer, he had Canis Rex, he had a Knight Errant, and 4 of the Armiger Warglaves, the Melta combat ones. And guys, you know what the DeathWatch does. If you've watched this channel, you know what my DeathWatch does. It kills big units. And I explained before the game, I don't want to ever gotcha people. I explained what everything can do, my uppy downies, my devastating wounds, my rerolls with the Tome of Ectoclade. I explained all that stuff, but it doesn't matter. Turn 1, he went first. He had his Knight Lancer inside a piece of terrain. And so, because now the Knights can move through it, he moved through it onto the center table, onto the center objective, because he had established Locust to do an action there. I joked about how the rule that the Imperial Knights go through a wall, they roll a d6 on a 1, they fail Battle Shock. I joked that was kind of a pointless rule, but then he rolled a 1 on that test, so the Knight Lancer went through the building and then couldn't do the action on the center objective. He moved Canis Rex up into a building so that he could see out of the building. He shot my Rhino, killed the Rhino, and then he had I forget, Calexis or an Eversor. I forget which one's which. He had an assassin that was the close combat one with the 9-inch scout move. He went in and picked up 3 jump intercessors. That was his turn 1. My turn 1, in response, I uppy downing my dev sense. I launched the Watchmaster's unit into the middle of the table at the at the Lancer. I popped Tome of Accolades on Canis Rex and the Lancer. I bought him my drop pods because I bring them in turn 1. The Eradicators were in Deep Strike, but they have to wait in turn 2 till turn 2. But between all the shooting from the Dev Sense and the Stern Guard and even the frag cannons doing some work, we were able to shoot down Canis Rex. We were able to get the Lancer down to 10 wounds and then charge in with the Watchmaster's unit. The Watchmaster was the one himself who finished off the Lancer, so he got his Thief of Secrets buff. Got improved there, and obviously that was a huge swing in terms of just sheer damage. I forgot to mention I also took Bring It Down and Assassinate because the 3 big ones, the characters and the assassin character, and Sir Hector counts as a separate character. So yeah, after picking up, I don't know what that was, 800-900 points worth of models in turn 1, he wasn't able to do a whole lot. Turn 2, and just went from there, able to pick up the other big knight, the Errant. I got him down to 1 wound in the next turn. Picked up 2 of the Warglaves. So after turn 2, there was just a big knight Errant with 1 wound left and 2 Armiger Warglaves. So I just kind of controlled the game, and we kind of talked it out because I was obviously going to, with the uppy downy strap, be able to table him and shoot that knight Errant off the table. We only have 1 wound left. So, yeah, so the last ride of the DeathWatch, the last competitive game of the DeathWatch, I got to do with the DeathWatch, what the DevWatch do, and absolutely destroy an Imperial Knights army. Jason was a great opponent. We still had a good time. But, yeah, scored 100 in the last game for the DeathWatch. So overall, I went 4-1. Very happy with that. Of course, I would have preferred if I won the whole GT, but then went undefeated. But that's I'm playing with an army that's rules are not as good as they should be. And so I'm very happy with the 4-1 performance. I came in 4th place because there were 3 of us that were 4-1, and a couple of my wins were not really high scoring. But still got a little bit of store credit because at Battlegrounds and Boardgames, they pay out the top 4. Got a little store credit. It's a very fitting last ride for the DeathWatch. Like I said, the last game they got to do what they do and kill really hard. And with the Bring It Down and Assassinate, I maxed out secondaries, maxed out primaries, scored 100, and that's how they'll ride off into the sunset. So I really appreciate everyone who has watched the videos about the DeathWatch and watched our battle reports. I really appreciate all the comments you guys have gotten. It's nice to know there are a lot of people out there that really care about and enjoy the army. I'm very sad to see them go. Don't know why GW made this decision. We have no explanation for why it had to be removed as an army. So super bummed out about that, but glad we had one last good one. So thanks again for everyone who's been watching. Thanks you to everyone who's been commenting and liking. I really do appreciate that. As far as the next thing we're going to do with all these Marines I have, because I've got 20,000 points of painted DeathWatch, and I can still use them as other Marines. I will be running other Marine chapters. I will be messing around with the Imperial Agents a little bit. I don't like that book as a standalone book. It's got some interesting things for allying into other Imperial armies. As a standalone book, it's just terrible. GW didn't want it to be good, so they wrote it so it was not very good. But I will mess around with play a few games, see if we can get a little bit of fun out of it, squeeze a little bit out of that book. But yeah, stick with me, and we'll move on to the next thing. So I've got a 5-man team tournament coming up the first weekend of September 7th and 8th. So I'm getting ready for that. I'm going to be playing Death Guard, so we'll be seeing that on the channel here this week. But yeah, there's a lot of other. Let me know what kind of Marine stuff you guys want to see. I'm interested to see what we want to see the pivot to as far as Marines go. I'm not going to review the Imperial Agents Codex until we have points, until I have the book in hand and we have actual points, because points are going to be very relevant to whether it's a playable codex at all. So we'll wait a little bit. I know a lot of the big channels have all done their full codex reviews, so you probably don't need more of the same from me. But once we get points and everything, we'll talk about the DeathWatch specifics of the Imperial Agents book. All right. Thanks for staying with me, guys. Check out our army lists and our battle report this week, and have a good one.
And now his watch is ended.